Something we built in the community with off-the-shelf tools. The image processing API costs a quarter of 1 penny to generate an image. And so you license it to your clients for whatever you want per month. So that's where you get 20 clients on it that'll pay you $400 a month, $100,000 a year in passive revenue for an accounting firm.
We've taped it together though. We've got it all. We don't even need glue.
It's literally taped.
You got a legit setup, doctor. Was it about 2,000?
I don't know. If I started tomorrow with nothing and just bought all the stuff I got now, it's probably $2,500.
Yeah, whatever you got working. Let's skip the pleasantries and first get this out of the way that Ackerman has been seeing a personal trainer. So yeah, he's been trying to get a little buff here.
It's all about the golf game. I just got to be able to hit it farther. That's all I care about.
You're a workout buff too, or no?
A little bit.
A little bit.
I'm not a buff. I go twice a week for 30 minutes.
Let's introduce.
And the lady after me is 75 years old that sees the guys.
So after a bye week, we're back. Sons of CPAs are back. We have a very special guest tonight. We have somebody that's here for the community. See, I'm here for the culture. He's here for the community. I think I will save a lot of my introduction and just say that Jason Staats is with us tonight.
Great to be here.
Realize and of Brenner CPA. I would love to just hear your story, Jason.
Oh man, I backed into accounting. I never wanted to be an accountant. I still don't want to be an accountant, to be honest.
You don't. You're the least accountant person I know.
I've come around to the idea that everybody needs like a deep technical skill as a means to an end. And you get that technical skill and then you can do all the other stuff around it. Accounting is a channel that lets me do a lot of other things. If I had kids going into college right now, that's what I would tell them. Like, spend your first 10 years, double down on something technical, but then anything's possible. You can do 100 different things in our industry, and I think that's what's fun about it to me. But now I backed into it because I didn't know what I wanted to do. Software development background, and then pulled the plug on that. And public accounting for the last 12 or 13 years. And then the last couple of years, more community-based and profession-facing.
Yeah, well, those first 13 years in public, what made you stick that out?
Well, I just want to know how you went from software development to accounting.
In retrospect, I had the worst professors imaginable. You don't get that perspective until later on. You see the really good teachers and the really bad ones that you made to feel like you're not cut out for this kind of thing. Bad classes that took the wind out of your sails because you don't know anything when you're 20 years old. You have a couple of failures and you're pretty convinced I must really suck. Literally, I fell on my face doing the other stuff and came over to accounting.
I think a lot of what we talk about is software and everything we do is software. That background kind of ties in now. It backed its way into it in a way. When we started this, it wasn't on the tip of everybody's tongue as it is now.
Yeah, it's very much tech dictated profession. And like you said, I don't know, 10 years ago, I don't know that anybody had the crystal ball to say that's how it would have been. But I look at the people that I respect in the profession and the right way to do things versus the wrong way to do things. A lot of times it's tech. All that tech always has to be wrapped up in kind of human experience.
Well, I think the right way is curiosity. I think that's closed-mindedness is usually the end of it for a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure.
Accounting tends to lag on technology. How did you realize that technology was lacking, and what were your first steps to get the firm using tech? Or maybe the firm was always using tech.
No, definitely not early on. I think everybody...
Have you been with the same firm for all of these years?
Yeah.
I want to get some context in this. Have you been with the same firm? Because
no. I did 3 years with the first firm I was at. I ended up there because it was a killer internship. I was making more money than my buddies. That's how I ended up in the profession. We all saw this when you were just putting in the reps. The vast majority of tax specifically, the same people coming back every year, fixing the same problems every single year, and they pay you hourly to do that exact same thing every year. And it's not a bad gig, and you can make a lot of money doing that. But at a certain point, like, that's not fun anymore, and it's really not in the client's best interest either. So yeah, I was exposed to, I think, all that. I think most people were just when you were still back putting in the reps.
Why do you think it's not in the client's best interest?
To pay me to fix the same thing for them several times. They don't even have journal entries posted from the previous year. So they're literally paying you for the exact same thing year over year.
These are clients that you don't have that much engagement with anyway. These were just tax only type clients.
Annual, once a year kind of thing. As long as there's really low quality work, then you don't get into the actual valuable. How did this get off the rails in the first place? More valuable conversation.
It seems like it's all backwards. And you're looking in the rear view, and here's what you could have done. See you next year.
Yeah. Yeah. The vast majority of the profession, you're like an attorney. They give you all the inputs, and then you do the thing for them. And then they come back when they have another thing they need you to do.
And eventually a computer's going to do those inputs.
Yeah.
If not already.
Yeah.
So going beyond taxes and once a year, what is it that you guys are doing and your team in particular now? Like you've flipped things upside down there, or did you take something and run with it?
Yes, about 5 years ago, we started doing CAS, and I didn't feel like we could really be advisors to that part of your business unless we did it ourselves. We invested in CAS to build that internal expertise so that we could actually advise clients more proactive.
Seeing in color for the first time, like it opens up an entire world. I feel like you haven't even scratched the surface of everything that you can do and the potential that is there for just the community. That's beyond the client service. We had the same conversation with Will too. Impact on the community trickles its way down into the clients and everybody that the community serves. We're talking about the community. We're talking about us, sons of CPAs, firms out here.
Yeah. I think 2020 shone a light on that big time with COVID relief. Everybody was doing the exact same things in parallel. The CARES Act comes out. Think about all the people that were researching and cranking on the exact same things for the exact same act throughout the entire profession. But there's this like propriety around how you run your firm that for whatever reason makes most CPA firms this closed box, and they're not going to talk about what they do as if there's not an abundance of people to serve and that sort of thing.
I think it also goes beyond that too, like not just the people to serve, but they feel like they have a proprietary of the way they do things. We're all doing taxes. We're all doing the same thing. So it's more egos too. We've been doing this for 100 years. Our names have been on the walls for this long that I can't change. We can't do anything different.
Yeah, and that's where the big guys lose, is they think they're big enough to where they don't need it. Especially with the web and how easy that makes it to collaborate now. Nobody's ever going to outgun like the collective effort of what everybody can do. Tax Twitter has pulled off like some unbelievable stuff, shared resources, the result of a whole bunch of people putting effort into it. It's made everybody better. The bigger your firm gets, I think, the more resistance, but the little guy get the best of both worlds. You've got the agility of being the little guy, but if you're leaning in the community, you're getting a lot of that shared benefit too.
Yeah, I think everybody's happy to share that. Ackerman, what are your thoughts? You're in deep thought right now.
I want to know how, when you decided to start the cloud accounting services practice, how'd you go about doing that?
It's kind of different than most people approached it. At that point in time, we had 1,200 small business clients already. So it wasn't, we're going to decide what we want to do and then start marketing it. It was like, who's the best fit for what we think we want to do and who would we enjoy working with? So the marketing aspect was simplified so that you could focus on what do we actually want to take on. So we started just engaging with a few of those clients that we knew would be on board, that we already had a good relationship with, that were going to be forgiving of kind of getting over those speed bumps in the beginning. And from there, it's just been a matter of, 95% of our business comes in as tax business.
Sure.
We're yet to advertise any of our CAS services, and we've had good luck so far just pulling over the people that we think are going to be a good fit.
But how'd you design the team to service the clients when you had no CAS experience?
It's kind of like a chicken and the egg thing. I did it all myself, basically. Picked the brain of everybody who would let me pick their brain. Just like when you start anything. And so you kind of wade into it and you're like, is this really something that we want to do? And then the next guy was the most recent tax hire that was still spinning in his chair because he didn't have enough work to do. And he's still with me today. But no,
So it was just you, and then you pull in another tax guy, and now you got what, like 10 people?
Got 10 people on the cast team, yeah.
Yeah. It's your team.
So how does the cast team and the tax team, how do they work together? Is there overlap or is it complete separate lines of business? And how do you make sure that you still feel like one team, even though it might be two separate?
Or how do you make sure the client feels like it's under one roof too?
By and large, for resource planning to date, we've had to keep it pretty much separated because everybody's on monthly engagements and we can't go to them and say, hey, you're not going to hear from us much the next few months because we got a bunch of tax returns to do. Nobody's good with that. So everybody's getting tax planning. Every client has a tax manager and an accounting manager. So there's a couple of things like that the tax team runs support on for the cast team.
Who oversees both of those? I hate to just jump into that, but you say there's a tax manager and an accounting manager. Who oversees the two of them, or are they just on different teams that are both reporting to the client? How the conversation is coordinated with the client too.
The vast majority of our client relationships are managed like middle out. Like it's not like we try to take business that will come in at the middle, not at the partner level, because stuff that comes in partner level and then gets pushed down, they're always disenchanted to a degree because they want the other guy that or the other gal that they came in for. So by and large, it's the accounting manager usually managing it. They control that whole cast relationship and they're the ones having scope conversations and stuff like that. From time to time, if stuff goes sideways, me or my partner have to be involved in the conversation. But as far as my team's considered, those are their clients and they're the ones managing them.
Yeah, because it looks to me like that seems to be the bigger money maker, maybe. I don't know how the margins go, but it's the stickier part too, as far as a client would be.
For cast?
I think
See,
so.
I think the tax is stickier.
It's an interesting debate to have, but I would think long game, long run, that if you're building that relationship, that this holds
There's
more
just
weight
so
than
many
tax.
cast people out there that are always.
What if you're doing both, right? You're doing both, but Jason, and correct me if I'm wrong, even your firm, and I say Jason, talking to both of you really, who's the manager for you say you've got your staff doing both, right?
Who are you talking to?
Jason 1.
Is that me?
I think so. Jason A and Jason
No, I'm
B.
interested to see what Jason says
Yeah.
about what you think is stickier. This isn't
What do you
about
think
me.
is stickier?
One or the other?
Yeah.
I'm probably a bad person to ask because almost all of our business comes to cast from tax. So by and large, people still just think that we're a tax firm. Like it's a 70-year-old firm. We've been around forever. Everybody knows our name in the region. So I'm probably a bad person to ask. It sure makes them a whole lot more sticky if you're doing both, though.
What if you did this, and this is not even a suggestion.
Yeah.
You took your number of clients and your 10 people and went and started a firm and there was no non-compete or anything. What's stickier? Where do the clients stay when it comes to, we can do your taxes too?
Like where would they go? Which team would they follow?
Yeah.
I will say with CAS, depending on how deep your CAS services are, if you're doing bill pay, very hands-on stuff, you're talking with them every single week and you're a very integrated part of their team. I do agree with Jason. There's more people holding themselves out as CAS people. It's just the perception. There are still some clients that see what you're doing as bookkeeping and they see everybody with the bookkeeping shingle out and they'll have this group do bookkeeping. It's tough because they're different. There's definitely like this mystique around your tax wizard and which oftentimes is misplaced and they think you have this knowledge that they can't live without, but I don't know, it's two different things. I'm not going to settle this one for you.
I'm so curious about this too. And I like this answer or this debate because our office is so intertwined with both that I can't really consider us putting ourselves out as cast or putting ourselves out as just tax, whereas I see benefits from both. So I think that at the end of the day, if you're not doing both, are you servicing the client in their best interest?
They definitely go hand in hand. What do you think, Ackerman?
I think it's based on the client. As your clients get bigger, and they need that real CFO level role, and you become integral with the client on that side, then yeah, that becomes very sticky. I think most small businesses in the country, they don't necessarily need that or have that. So they're looking more towards the bookkeeping side, and you're not doing as much advising, where they're going to ask most of their questions will probably be tax focused as an advisor. It depends on the type of client, obviously, that you're serving, but that's
I
kind
think
of,
strictly right now we were talking about cash and tax.
yeah.
Like not even as far as advisory. We're not even getting in that conversation.
I think if it's just cloud accounting versus tax wins every day. Now, if you have CFO versus tax advising, then it's could be up for debate.
That's the mix. That's the cement
Because
mixer.
when someone goes and asks a question, they're going to go ask the CPA before the SaaS person on almost everything. I would think.
So then what's the water? What's the water? You've got the cement powder, you got the mixer, and you've got the water. It turns into cement when you start bringing in the CFO stuff on top of the tax and the CAS. That's where it's not even sticky anymore. It's stuck until they go out of business and you're looking out for their best interest. I think that's what really makes it all stick.
Yeah.
Keeping them all together, but unifying them with a higher level of advice, giving them real advice in real time for real situations, and not just the magician who's saving them a ton of money, but planning to make them more money, looking forward and not just doing a budget. And let's forecast these next 3 years and let's look at where you can be.
Yeah, that's a CFO level service. So
I know.
that's what I was saying. If you're doing
doing their taxes, their books are legit too. If you're doing their books, you don't got to go to the next person or the next guy. And for them, they'll pay you a lot more because they know you got it all. You're holding it all.
Yeah, I don't think we're disagreeing.
No. Is it the CFO guys that start doing tax?
I just don't think you can do both very well. I think you need, like Jason was saying before, the technical aspect of a CFO is way different than a tax person.
I think Brenner, in the way that they do things, could have a CFO division just like they have a CAS division and still be under one roof and them all communicating.
Yeah, well, I see a CFO as being a continuation of the CAS. The CAS is basically the basic level of your making sure their books are done, and then you build on top of that by giving the advice, and that's where the advice comes in.
But the foundation came from the tax department, the TD, right? The foundation of your clients and your revenue.
Yeah. Well, and I think
on a perm level.
And in the US, tax is on a basic level is the thing you have to do every year, whereas CAS isn't. Yes, you have to do your books in order to do a tax return, but you're legally required.
But there are some people that you can hand a sheet of paper and then they'll do your fucking return. Yeah. Like some.
But no, I'm just saying, in like other countries, it's the complete opposite. Australia, their tax return is super easy. That's an afterthought. But the thing that's heavily regulated is the CAS side. So for other countries, it's much more important to have the professional on the CAS side. It's just backwards in the US because our tax code's so complicated.
Is this why Xero came from? I always thought Xero came from New Zealand, that area, and a lot of our software came from that area for other reasons. But is it because of that heavy focus on CAS there?
I don't think that's the reason why it started there. I think their banking system, when you have 3 banks, it's much easier to get a software that talks to them.
True.
Faster.
Yeah.
I think that's why it kind of started there.
I do think folks there seem to be forward.
And they need it, yeah. And I do think that if you look at Intuit here, it really started with the tax product. They had Quicken and stuff, but the tax product's the big thing. They've gone into QuickBooks Online, and it's the opposite, where they didn't need a tax product over there. But that's enough about that. Let's get back to
We're
boring, Jason. This isn't about a conversation. We talk all the time. So I want to know how you start, because I found out about you from Donna Bordeaux, but she's raving about you and how you've created this accounting community of shared knowledge and coming up with all these solutions. So how'd you come up with that vision and execute on it?
Yeah, Donna's a really good example of somebody with a super clear vision of a really successful way to run a firm. And you get down into a meeting with a bunch of other people, everybody's going to learn a ton. I think we get trapped into this thinking of there's this ultimate way to run a firm or something. There's not. There's so many people doing little interesting things, nuances, remixes on these little aspects of running a firm.
No, she does it with finesse.
She does. And you're never going to know about that crap unless you're talking with people. And so most people, I mean, the vast majority of people are not willing to do this. But what I want is to collect all the people that are willing to do this. And all those people are gonna 10x just by being able to share that stuff and be in community and talk about what's working, what's not working. Great example. So this is completely normal for firms like mine. 2 years ago, we decide, all right, we're gonna come off Lister. We need to go to a new tax software. We're gonna go to Thomson Reuters Suite, UltraTax, all that. How do we do that? And this is 2-3 years ago. How do we do that? We talk with a couple other firms in town. We talk with the sales rep, blah, blah, and that's fine. We go into it, not at all what we expect. And 99% of the conversation you have is with a sales rep who's inherently got a conflict of interest. And the whole process is just a big old headache. You compare a transition like that to what we're doing now. Tomorrow, if I want to make a software transition, I go out, I find 4 to 6 other firms that are doing the same transition at the same time I am. I find 1 to 3 sponsors who are firms that have already been on this tool for 2 or 3 years, and we go through that whole process together. So from starting the migration to the right way to set it up to I ran into this issue, what's the truth? My rep's telling me that. We've got people speaking into the process that have used the tool for several years, where everybody just cut 2 years off of that onboarding, getting up to speed on a tool process. That's a very concrete example of how everybody's doing this stuff in parallel, one-to-one, as opposed to we're all trying to solve the same problems. We're not going to steal clients from each other. Good grief. This market could be twice as big as it is if we just knew how to serve all the potential.
And the market would be so much better too if we served.
Yeah.
There's so many businesses that just don't even know. They think they're supposed to be doing it on their own.
So that's all great. Sounds great. But how'd you actually form the community?
I put out there basically that I wanted to find people who were willing to engage in a higher effort community. So not your water cooler Q&A Facebook
group. Yeah.
We've got enough of those, but who wants to actually build stuff together? And so I put that out, and the reception was way better than I thought it would be. And so the first poll for that was I did an 8-week workshop series going over pretty advanced tech for accountants. So that was the initial draw. But then we had probably 50 accounting firm owners that came in with that cohort. But then you got 50 accounting firm owners that know how to freaking build bots and do all these things that other accountants don't know how to do. So then what do those 50 accounting firms come up with then? That's the really rad part, is now you've got all these people with these superpowers that are building stuff together. So it started as I was tweeting a lot about just cool stuff you can do. And I was open sourcing some of the stuff that I was building. And so I collected an audience of people that wanted to do more of that. And then we just started a community and started cranking all that stuff together.
And you guys charge a monthly fee, and half of it goes to building technology.
Sure. Yeah, so $120 a month. That makes sense for people that are in situations like mine. It's a no-brainer. It's not for everybody, and it shouldn't be for everybody. And then half of that money goes straight into a community fund where we just invest in shared stuff. Test banks for hiring new team members. We all need this, so let's just build it together.
I love it. Yeah.
What do you think is the technology that is lacking the most in our field?
It's still cloud adoption. It's got to be, right?
From accounting firm aspect.
In the U.S., it's cloud adoption, but are you thinking among firms that are...
We're big technology people. What's the technology that we know is needed but just doesn't exist right now in accounting?
This is going to sound like a homer answer, but shared solutions to bridge the legacy tools that we all use. So what tax software are you on?
UltraTax. Yeah.
Okay. You got some big enterprise RPA players right now that's helping the SBA build bots to process PPPs, all this stuff. This stuff's getting easier and easier to build, but you go license RPA off the shelf and you got to build For example, UltraTax. If I want to build an API over UltraTax to be able to pull data, push data automatically, that sort of thing, I got to build that whole thing myself via RPA. But there's 4 or 5 tax tools that control 95% of the market.
What's RPA for those
Robotic
listening?
process automation.
Okay.
So desktop-based bots that are now super easy to build. They launch applications, pull data from here to there, do all that stuff automatically. If you wanted to build that for your UltraTax, and there's 10,000 other firms using UltraTax, 10,000 people would have to go out and build that exact same bot 10,000 times. As opposed to build it once, and now you got 10,000 people that can build an API over UltraTax or something like that. So I think where there's a big need right now is where are those legacy tools that are the big issues in your workflow? And how do you bridge those legacy tools in a way that's going to plug in with the rest of your cloud stack? That makes sense?
Yeah, oh yeah. That's the biggest thing for us is the tax software. None of them, the only one that's
there really
100%
isn't
cloud-based is
cloud
ProConnect.
Yeah.
And you moved off Lacert, so you didn't like it for some reason, and we're on Access or stuff, and that's the biggest roadblock in everything is we can't get that to cloud, because if we could, then a lot of things would fall into place. So
then what happens when that's on cloud? Then
so you're basically saying that's going to take a while, so I'm building bots, desktop bots that'll help bridge what you already have now.
Yeah. I don't know how long it's going to take to have these sick tax tools. Rather, we're light years away from that. I'm not an Intuit guy, so I'm not going to put all my money in an Intuit basket. But right now, I could build a bot in 90 minutes that would let you file a federal extension by pinging Zapier, and that's something that doesn't exist. But we're using the exact same tax software. So where are the people building those bridge tools for the problems that every single one of us have?
Where's the company that you can say, here's this problem, and then they build that tool in 90 minutes? Yeah. Or that we already have that tool? Yeah.
So this isn't, I would pay you, people would pay you lots of money to do that. So give us some examples of some stuff that you've built that has helped your workflows.
Oh, so a big thing we've done is...
Let him answer.
I know he sent me a cool ass one that he built though. The website that you said you were just bored and you just built it. That was cool as shit. It was like the PPP one, I think.
Should I apply for PPP
forgiveness? Yep. You bought a domain and everything, yeah.
That's just internet memes. An actual useful thing. So here's something. So I think the answer is you build this stuff in community. You build it once and then everybody uses it.
Yeah.
But, good example. Something that I'm pushing right now is scorecarding. So, did I show you this?
No.
Super simple. Think of it almost like a playing card. You got 3 or 4 numbers on it. And most of the time, the way we manage advising is set of KPIs every month over the top. And so you sit down with the business owner, oh, here's your KPIs, you did this and that. The reality is there's 30 inputs coming into your sales KPI or something like that. You've got all these salespeople every single day. And a lot of the times, especially with small business owners, you got issues with their expectations being in alignment with what those people are actually doing every day. If you had to make a scorecard for every single one of your team members' day, what would be on it? Now, right now, nobody's going to issue that scorecard because that's a crap ton of work. But it's super easy to do with image generation APIs. So something that we built is super basic scorecard. It's got 3 numbers on it and then a bar at the top for the name. And these can be generated via bulk CSV upload by filling out a form, and then it bounces these scorecards straight back. Or you set up the delivery destination, like that employee's cell phone number if you want it to be sent via SMS, or their channel ID in Slack if you want them to get it in Slack. So what we can set up are these client-facing scorecards where the only thing that ever changes is the tag over the number. So what are the labels on those numbers? Maybe it's sales, maybe it's starts, something like that. And then you give to the client the form or the upload link where they provide the data to generate those scorecards, and then they go out automatically to the whole team. So that could be 5 people, it could be 100 people. They go out every single day. It's completely passive. You don't do a thing, and you license it to your clients for whatever you want per month. So that's a really easy thing where you get 20 clients on it that'll pay you $400 a month, and that's $100,000 a year in passive revenue for an accounting firm.
What data, who's filling it out, and who's it going to?
The client's filling it out, and it's going to their team.
And the client's filling it out daily, maybe.
Yeah, so it could be a report they run out of their system. If it's web-based, you could connect it via API.
So if you had a bad sales day, everyone would get a frowny face.
Yeah, but basically you put those numbers in front of them every single day along with the expectation. Because when you set those over the top KPIs, if those final KPIs are the result of all the crunching everybody did all month, but if the feedback loop for that is once a month, that's not great. If you can issue scorecards in a fully automated way, that feedback loop is every single day, and you're hyper explicit about what you want those people to do every day. Nobody does it right now because issuing those scorecards every day is a ton of work, and that's processed with off-the-shelf tools. The image processing API costs $0.0025 to generate an image, and so automate that whole process. So that's something we built in the community. That was the result of that first 8-week tech series, is to have a fully automated service that you can turn around and sell to your clients. You think about all the scenarios where you can arbitrage that little scorecard and sell it for more than $0.0025. There's a lot of them.
Because you're just pulling data from other places to create the scorecard, so you're really creating the value in that image. The image is worth a fraction of a penny.
Yep,
it's just printing.
You've got an admin on the client side doing a file upload every day or something like that.
Now, garbage in, garbage out. Who's reviewing it if something gets off the rails? What happens when something breaks?
It depends on the data inputs. If these are commission salespeople, then you just realize that your data is crap the day that it happened, rather than whenever you did your review before, which was probably less frequently than every day. So you've got that automated feedback loop, and it's got other peripheral upsides like that.
So really the only downside I can think of is actually an upside, which is true to life in any way. You find out what's wrong with the inputs in real time.
You're doing that monthly meeting right now where you're going through KPIs. What are all the inputs feeding into that KPI? And how can you build shorter feedback loop reporting for that KPI?
And how do you speak all of this in the language that the business owner understands?
I think you can, because you're the advisor, right? There's nobody better positioned than the accountant, because they understand the issue. As opposed to if Ackerman and I went out and built this SaaS product. Check this out, scorecard.com. It's super dope. You're gonna love it. That small business owner would never look at it. They would never buy it. And you'd have to sell those scorecards for half a penny a piece.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to us, we could generate the same thing in an automated way. We know the context where that reporting is really valuable. And so you can be the guy to plug in that solution, and it's absolutely a no-brainer.
Are these weekly or daily scorecards?
It can be whatever you want. It could be daily, weekly.
Every minute. I have so many ideas for things I want. I want something where the person, the tax or the client can see exactly where you are in the process of doing something for a tax return.
The dominoes.
Like your tax return is being prepared, or it's in review, or it's getting assembled, because we have all those statuses where it is, and instead of the client emailing where's my tax return, they get it's all there for them.
I love that Josh built something like this 4 or 5 years ago. Josh Lance built something like that. The Domino's bar 4 or 5 years ago. He did, yeah. And I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. And he's taking it from these basic tools, so the client can see, here's where your tax, here's what phase it is, and it gets greener as you get further along.
Yeah, super easy. So
super easy. You hear this?
Super easy for you.
No, it is super easy. So image generation API. So here's how the Domino's everything works. It's got 5 or 6 statuses. There's a different image for each status. So your tax
Yes.
prep process has X number of statuses. Pay a designer, set up X number of images, and then you got to figure out a way for them to get that every
For
time.
this robot to pull it from UltraTax, or maybe it's carbon though. Maybe it's the status that's in carbon and it just pulls that. But whatever it is, it's automating it to look super cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
So
and they
what-
think it's this super razzle dazzle thing, right?
So
Especially-
what KPIs do you use in your firm?
What APIs?
KPIs.
KPIs. Oh my gosh.
Oh, this is a jump off question.
Oh,
Yeah.
jeez. You just took me to a dark place, Ackerman.
I want to know. I love this question though. I love where this is going. And I want to hear what it is first because I
Speak,
changed
man.
ours up.
Jesus.
They don't
thinking,
exist.
he's
They
thinking.
don't exist right now because I just actually threw out all the ones that we had. So we just went through a big ownership transition, and so like we're piecing all that stuff together from scratch right now. What actually matters? There's a lot of stuff we were tracking before that was not real. They weren't real numbers, real metrics that were indicating where we're going.
Lags. You were tracking lags.
Yeah, whip stuff like that. That's funny money.
Do you keep track of time?
It's a 70-year-old firm. So part of our firm does. So we've got 3,000 tax clients, and not all of those clients have been transitioned to fixed fee stuff. That's a big project.
Oh,
A lot of them.
come
All
on.
the
We're a 45-year-old firm. We did it. You can do it.
I'm gonna have
Well,
to
he's got another what 25 years.
Yeah.
Do it. Yeah.
So we're working on that. All the cast stuff is, but yeah, we got people on both sides of that still.
So what's holding you back?
Yeah, what's holding you back on these? Why did the KPIs take you to a dark place? Because it was so easy to talk about clients' KPIs and shoot them. There's scorecards. Do you want to see? Which ones do you get every day?
It's always easier to talk about other people's problems than
Yeah, where are your scorecards?
So that's something we're working on right now because that's not a mental exercise I've really gone through. Like I haven't gone that deep into that. We're going through that walk right now. I think you kind of got to challenge the assumptions of what are the things that matter and what are the things that don't matter. The new business model for fast growth companies is to generate cash. So let people pay you at a discount for the next year of your services so that you can hire that next person and support more growth. So there's stuff like that, like to where do you lean into more of a growth model that may actually cost you money because all you're doing is generating cash ahead of your growth. So there's stuff like that. We don't know what the right answer is and if we want to be that.
Everybody has a different scorecard. Is where you're going.
Very true. So my partner, he's 5-10 years out from being done. So does he have the same appetite that I do? Does he want to work the same way that I want to work? And so that's a lot of what we're working through right now. What's the best way to build a business that we're both going to enjoy?
And be open about it, transparent.
And that's something that most CPA firms in this country go through, because you've got the younger partner and the older partner doesn't want to spend any money on anything because he's retiring in 5 years, but you want to spend the money because it's going to pay off, and you got to find that balance.
That's where the sons come in, because you got the father, the CPA, and then the son who's going to take the firm over, who we had on a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, and who's on actually here right here now, Jason A or Jason 1.
Well, I think it depends on the partner too, and if they want to change and they want to embrace the future.
Stats,
They can make more money.
I'll say this. We ripped our whole scorecard apart, or all of our KPIs apart recently as well, for no good reason, except for the fact that I wanted leading indicators. And I said, I'm done with looking at overdue work, looking at anything that is telling us what already happened, work that everybody did. I want some leading indicators. I was like, the only leading indicators we're measuring right now is how many hours of sleep I get, but we don't have, everything else is just a lag. So the only thing I could think of is maybe everybody plans their time. And that's a leading indicator.
Okay.
I'm not saying track it. I'm saying, here's your day, here's your hours, and here's what you're going to do today. If you can start doing that and measuring how many days you've actually executed it, that's what I want as my scorecard. Because I think everything else falls into place after that. We still have to have the other lags. The things that people do repetitively every day are what gets you a hell of a lot further, a hell of a lot better. It's that mundane shit. But how do you measure that?
Yeah, you're still working on that?
Yeah, I think I got it. All it is, they're all going to use the same method to track their time. Not track it, but plan it. I keep saying track. All they're going to do
It's
is
okay
plan.
to track time. There's so much shade thrown at time tracking, so we don't bill Cass. We don't bill
Oh,
any
I'm
time.
gonna throw shame at it.
I'm not.
That's
I'm
just
going to do it
throwing shame.
backwards, though. Jay, I'm saying this. I'm saying if there's this much time in a day and people are working remotely and they're doing shit from home, I want them to be able to bookend it with a book. So they've got a book and they've got fucking, just like anything else, a piece of paper where they start their day at this time and they say what they're going to do and what time they're going to end their day, and that's it. And if they can really do that with intent, then they're not going to go fuck around for an hour doing something else or doing this, and then they end their day. I think they could be more. I think they can 10x, and we're talking about members of the team. I think they can 10x their stuff because they enter the whirlwind of email and shit when they get on their computer that they forget what they're doing and they end up doing 4 or 5 things at once. You guys can relate to that. I'm sure everybody can.
So I put it back to my team. So my team's job is to run the company, is to run all those relationships. And their growth, where they go in their career, is dependent upon how they build a team around themselves. So I built a team of 10 around myself, and now their job is to be thinking ahead of what is the next generation of that look like.
Of that 10, how many
I love that.
of
I
you
love
are
that.
there? How many of you are in that 10?
I don't know. We'll see.
Okay.
They're not. I mean, it's not going to work. It's not going to pencil out for every single one of them. But
You only need 2 or 3.
Really, only need one.
If you get 2 people that can build a team out of 10, and then it just keeps going that way. I think that's great. I am a firm believer of letting your team run themselves and run the firm, like you said.
I think with the right processes, they run themselves, but you have to give them the right tools to run.
I don't think writing your time in a notebook is the right process.
So here's the thing. So I put it to them, how do you guys want to approach time? Every single one of them tracks their time because they want to see the delta over time. They want that to be a trailing indicator of, shoot, did we get into something out of scope on this or that project that we still need to bill for? Do we need to change the engagement, that sort of thing? And so I didn't influence them. I left it up to them. And they're actually
Sorry, we got the cleaning people here. I think that's interesting. I don't think that's a wrong. I think that's a great solution. I do think sometimes though, when you
Stats are batting for 100. Everybody we've asked so far does track time.
Yeah, but I think the thing is that's because that's all they know. They grew up in accounting. They've always tracked their time. They don't think that
so.
they can. I know so because we stopped tracking our time.
So did we. And I think we're going to go back to tracking it backwards.
6 of my 9 people in CAS came from outside accounting. They're non-accountants.
But why do all these other industries not track their time? Why are we the only ones that do it? Us and lawyers.
We're knowledge workers. That's all we have is time. And we have our heads. That's it. We're knowledge workers. We're not cranking out widgets. We're cranking shit out with our heads.
But you're not billing off of that.
Yeah, but time is not, exactly. We're not billing off of that, but time is all we've got to measure what we can do.
It's hard for me to do resource planning. When do we need that next hire? Incrementally, how much work is that next client we're picking up next month going to be? There's 2 sides of it. It's hard for me to do that without something quantitative. The flip side of that is something Scott was talking about, where I've got people on the team that are absolutely going to kill themselves unless I put boundaries around it. If they're pushing themselves and trying to do more and more, time is also a way to benchmark. This person needs help. They're not going to say that they need help, but this person needs help. I'm never going to know unless I have some sort of feedback loop to tell me that. So that's something I don't have another solution for.
But I think you're getting at something somewhere, because with one person can do this with that amount of time, the other person can do this with that amount of time. And you don't really know that if you give them all the time to do it how they want to do it, because they're both going to get it done. There's no common
benchmark. What would you say to that, Jason?
He says let them work to death.
No, I definitely don't say that. I think
They don't know what's better for themselves sometimes if they work too much.
I think it's changing your mind on management, how you manage people. I get the capacity planning, but I just think I think pretty quickly when you're out of scope on a client, you don't need a timesheet to tell you that. You also know when you're billing wrong for a client.
Yeah, but if you have that many clients, who's going to keep track of everything that's out of scope if they don't know better? If the staff doesn't know better, how are you going to keep your finger on the pulse?
The staff does know better because they're trained on that. I just think there's so many negatives to time. When you start tracking it, you feel I've seen it in our firm. As soon as you stop tracking time, people have more freedom.
You have a physical office. Do you have people working remotely too?
That's what I'm saying. When people felt when you were tracking time that they had to be allowed freedom for people, you lose some stuff. I don't think that people track their time accurately. So I think there's trash. I think you're kidding yourself. The people who aren't I don't like it.
This is where I'm trying to meet the two together, though. This is where I'm trying to have somebody, if they plan their day, they say, okay, I have this much work to do.
But why are you treating them like a McDonald's worker? Like they're professional. Like they should be able to plan their time.
They should be able to plan their own day.
So why are you making them write it in a book?
I'm trying to make them figure out how much time something's going to take because a lot of times they don't know. They may estimate. So when they plan their day,
you're assuming
they're going to course correct.
That's assuming that they're stupid. They think it's going to take an hour and a half, and it takes.
I say an extreme example. I mean,
3 hours, and they're going to keep doing that over and over.
At the end of the day, they're talking now. What's X amount of work? Are you going to give it to them in dollars, or about how much time it's going to take them, or both?
I want it in dollars. I want my goal.
That's all we have is dollars right now.
I want $1 full-time equivalent.
Stats. He's got the stats. Stats has the stats. And what do the stats say?
Billing, fixed fee versus hourly?
Not even billing. Just the fact that people are tracking
it. What's your do you know your revenue per full-time equivalent right now?
Oh, it's hard to say off the top of my head. We've hired a bunch of.
Be able to get it.
Yeah.
So my goal, I want to be at $300,000 per full-time equivalent. That's my goal, and
So you don't need, but you don't need time to get to that goal, which is why in the beginning we said everybody's scorecard's different. I don't think there's a right answer for time, and I don't even think we're trying to argue it. I'm trying to figure this shit out. I'm really confused about time. I'm in a whirlwind of lost. Because everybody treats it differently.
I think you've gotten too far away from the actual work and you're trying to come up with ways to track people. That's what I think you're doing. You want people to be more productive, but that's not the problem because you've got bad people.
No, production is a problem. I think they can do more with less.
So that is a problem then.
I don't know. Stats. Why can't you 10x people that are good? I got good people.
10x is like building a team around themselves. But my approach is if the right answer is going to come from me managing over the top, I think that's probably not the right approach. So we put it to the team. Right now, they think that's the best thing for them.
I think that's a great. If that's the answer, I'm cool with that because I think you have the team buy-in, and that's the key. It's not a right or wrong way to do stuff. Not the way I would do it, but.
Yeah.
I think it's important sometimes that you even if you think that's the wrong decision, you let your team make it because they're taking responsibility for it.
So this time planning, leading indicator, managing over top of them is not what anybody wants to do. I don't think that's what we get.
How do you spend most of your day, Jason?
Right now, it's on kind of rebuilding systems, like keep out of client-facing stuff. So we're about a $4.5 million firm that's contracted to 2 partners. So if we try to do client service, we're screwed.
And how many people do you have?
We've got 33 people right now, I think.
Yeah, so that's good. You're at $180,000, $190,000 per person.
So I'm less and less client-facing by the day. And so I'm looking at building on our processes because they're not quite where we need to be yet, but also building me. The highest leverage thing I can do is make 5 of me. That's what I'm looking at, is finding the right people.
So how do you plan on making more views?
Make a community.
I think he's planning it. What was that?
Make a community and attract the best people across the country to it.
There you go. He got close to the mic on it. I saw that. You build the community.
See, build an audience, talk about all the stuff that you love. The people that connect with it will be the people that love it too. And then you just start bringing those people into your circle. That's not the only player. It's not this long con or something, but that's genuinely a big part of it. Because if I put out an Indeed ad, I'm not going to get people that think like me.
So you want to hire from the community.
That's one aspect of it, yeah. So most of my hires now come from the audience I've built, and by sharing all the things that I do, those are the people it's connecting with, and those are better hires than somebody off the street.
Yeah, because they know
you already
what you're
too.
about, and they want to follow you and be part of it.
You're already leading them in some way, and you're finding the people that are the best ones that you'd like to have their tutor or give them your tutelage.
And you've usually got you've already got a relationship with them before you even bring them into your team. So it's people that you've already worked with on stuff. It just totally makes sense.
But it's also connecting others too, because you could find somebody that's hiring, and then you've connected 2 other people that are a good fit. That this guy might not have been a good fit for you,
yeah,
but he was for this other one, and you know of this other one that he's a good fit for. So it's not just that.
When you hire these people that are in the community with you, what are they normally? Are they working in public accounting? What are they doing?
I say that I haven't hired a single person out of the community yet. I've hired people out of
He's talking about the community at large. Yeah. When I said in the beginning, I introduced you and I said, you're here for the community. We're talking about the accounting community here and the culture.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Where are they normally coming from?
In my case?
Yeah.
Twitter is the only platform I work on, and so I network with a ton of people on Twitter. A shocking amount of great clients, but yeah, that's where it's been happening so far. But it's also, I've had over 5 people in the last 6 months ask if they can merge into my firm. It's very smart young people building firms where it's like, I don't know if that's a good idea or not. So it's you're connecting with really talented people, and so that's at the end of the day, the people that have the talent connections that can build a network of super rad people, you're almost destined to do something cool, I think.
Yeah, and you're doing it together. Like you said, everybody was doing it parallel, and now you're doing it parallel, but in the same race, on the same team. You're like a Mario Kart team.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that's a thing. It should be a thing, though.
It should be if it's not, yeah.
It should be, man. I love playing Mario Kart. We got the Mario Kart live. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but I got
with the little cars you have to drive. That's so cool.
Dude, so my son turned 7 this weekend, and I did it in the whole basement. I made a rainbow road out of my daughter's little mats. So each block was a different color, and we were doing it in the other. Oh man, it was fun. But you've got to buy another car and another Switch to play 2-player.
Yeah, that's real.
So my brother's going to get one for his birthday.
We might have to work. I don't know.
Staats being our Jason 2 Bill Nye, that we can have him do little clips and pop that at the end of the cast or the middle or the beginning, like realized clips. We're about the culture. He's about the community here.
Yeah, since that first kind of 8-week series where they had a very clear purpose and people joined for that purpose, most of the people that have community have come from hearing podcast interviews because that makes sense. That light bulb goes on and you're like, yeah, I would be dumb not to do this with 50 other accounting firm owners.
Or 5,000, yeah.
Yeah, the notion that what you know is too important to give up, the underlying assumption there is that what you have to give is more than what everybody else has to give you. So it's totally asinine. And once people engage with that, they're like, yeah, no, I guess it does make sense.
Doesn't it feel so much better to give somebody something useful than to give yourself something? I think.
Yeah, here's the thing. If you're really special, this is my thinking, the way the internet is now and all that, if you're really doing something special and profound for a very small group of clients, those people that you work with, those are the only people you're ever going to touch. If what you're doing is really that novel and really that helpful, why would you not share that?
for the community.
Yeah.
Actually, that's the Will philosophy. That's why he's at Gusto now. But yeah, I love it. I'm gonna loop you in. Get a little stats update. Get our stats update, man. The Suns with the stats update.
Okay, can I ask my final question? Where do you see the profession going? Where do you think the profession is going to be in 5 years?
In a big hole in the ground. No, not really. I think there's a big part of it that will go into a hole in the ground, and the rest of it's going to pick up all that work.
Like Peter Baelish, just climb the mountain of chaos.
Yeah, we're going to hit this inflection point generationally. This backlog of all of these firms beyond retirement age. They don't have a plan. Nobody wants legacy firms. We're feeling a huge amount of pressure to serve everybody right now, and it is going to get way bigger. So that's going to boost the hyper productized solutions, your pilots of the world, bench. Those are going to get big, and that's okay. But it's also going to make the people with more of the CAS understanding and how to build your business around a web-based stack, those people are going to become even more invaluable. So in terms of trends, that's the big avalanche kind of thing where I'm not sure what exactly is going to happen with that, because there's just so much pent-up business trapped in these legacy firms. I saw this article recently. It was Pete in accounting or Gary in accounting is about to lose his job or something. All these articles are centered around one premise, and that one was centered around robotic process automation. And I see that stuff and I'm like, okay, here's 70 accountants that are leaning into robotic process automation right now. So if Gary loses his job, it's because another accountant put him out of work. So it's not the developers.
Gary was left behind. Sorry, Gary.
Yeah.
Go find another team.
That's the circle of life. That's how it's always been in every profession. So a developer is not going to build the solution for what it is that you do right now. It's going to be accountants. So yes, there's certainly risk where if you're not willing to adopt any tech, that somebody else that can do way more scale than you, they're going to step in and take your lunch money, just like always. But the big steps, that stuff's going to come from the people with the expertise, the people that understand the nuance of it, in my mind.
Yeah.
I think we're a long way from the tax return doing it itself, bookkeeping doing it itself, but you got to leverage the technology to help you.
And it's kind of the analogy I think about is Tesla self-driving cars. People hear autopilot and they're like, that's not autopilot. You still got to watch it. You still got to hang on to the wheel. And there's so many steps between driving and self-driving where you can take a nap. And
yeah, exactly. The autopilot's pretty cool.
It's cool. Here's the thing though. So automation spectrums are different. Self-driving is a spectrum where it doesn't matter if you're at 99%. It only matters when you get to 100%. Because you can't take a nap at 99%. So you got to be just as alert. So that semi doesn't
take a micro nap.
Yeah. But there's other forms of automation, human in the loop, where you've got a low-level person that's managing a bot. There's other levels of automation that are halfway there is still useful. So everybody speaks on these big, grandiose, boom, we're not going to do it anymore. That's not how it ever is. It is a step process. Cloud accounting, bank feeds, that's a step process. That stuff wasn't happening 20 years ago. It's still shit. But man, it's
a hell of a lot better now than it was 2 years ago.
On one end, you don't want to be the guy saying, bank feeds will never work, not going to use them because they're not full self-driving. You still got to play the game. There's an equilibrium there. You still got to be plugged in so that you're the one pushing things forward. It's a balancing act. It's not an overnight, boom, this thing just happened. You think about all of the business owners that just had to get comfortable with running a distributed team. Why not have a third-party managed service provider that's part of your distributed team? So that just broke down a ton of barriers for people, which is great. When we're talking about Australia, I think culturally the difference there is they lean much more into that advisor and pulling that third-party service in, which is financially total common sense to me. Somebody sees a $2,000 a month bill from their account, oh my gosh, that's a lot. But you equate that in terms of hours for a minimum wage employee, and oh yeah, I guess that's not a lot.
I've never heard it put that way, but that's so good. People in the US were taught that everything should be free. I can do it myself. That's not the way it should be. Next time Scott will talk a third of the amount of time that he did.
Thank you so much, for real.
This is a lot of fun.
I'm gonna join the group.
Do it.